Order the regular meeting of the Hubbardston Planning Board. It's October 1st at 6:33 p.m. Planning Board meetings are broadcast live and digitally recorded. This meeting is being held both in person and through Teams, pursuant to Section 20 of the Acts of 2021, allowing public meetings to be conducted remotely so that board and committee members, as well as members of the public, can participate remotely. And noting that we do have a member participating remotely tonight, so we will be calling all votes as a roll call. So moving right into the agenda, the first item we have is public comments. Do we have anybody here or online to comment on anything that is not in the agenda? All right, hearing none, we're going to move forward into acceptance of the previous meeting minutes. These minutes have been made available to everybody through the SharePoint and have also been made available to them in the binder for this meeting. We're going to handle this through the usual process where we get a motion and a second, and then from there we will handle corrections through a friendly amendment. So can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
I will make a motion to accept the minutes.
Excellent. Hearing a first, can I get a second?
I'll make a second.
Hearing a second, any corrections or adjustments to the minutes? All right, hearing none.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
A small correction on item 7C. On the second line of 7C, the very last word,
Hi, Francois.
I think it's meant to say potential.
Yes, that would seem correct.
Thank you.
I think I like potential better.
Oh, you guys look like the Brady Bunch.
Oh my goodness.
I had no idea that it does.
You're Alice.
Yeah, look.
Yeah. All right, any other corrections in the minutes?
No.
All right, and the folks who made the motion, do you accept the changes as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Sir, yes, sir.
Excellent.
Mr. Chair, I like and respect all of you a whole lot, but is there anything you guys need from me before I walk out that door?
No, I think we're good for tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Nate.
All right, so moving forward, calling a vote by roll call. So Mr. Steiger,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Hey.
Mr. Homan,
Aye.
and Mr. Demalia.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. The minutes are accepted. All right, so moving along on our agenda, we have the planners report. Alec, do you have anything for the planners report tonight?
Yes. So, some of you are already aware, but for others, the Attorney General did approve Articles 27 through 29, and they placed a hold on Article 26 of annual town meeting. So I wanted to give a brief explanation of what a hold looks like. So for reference, Articles 27 through 29, those are the non-controversial ones. We were quite confident those were going to fly right by. Article 26 was your battery energy storage bylaw. What that typically means when the Attorney General places a hold on an article is that they're not prepared to deny the article. They're likely looking for either a way to get to yes, or they believe there are elements of the article that need to be revised and or cut. That's not necessarily a bad thing. We went into this knowing that they might have some reservations on it. Simultaneously, an official from MRPC and DOER have been contacting me on the same topic. So I'm going to get in touch with them, see if they've heard anything about this bylaw or any others that have been held up. But I expect the Attorney General will take that full 90 days. So they've requested an extension. Town Council and I will tell you the same thing. It's never a good idea to say no if the Attorney General asks for an extension. So, of course, it was granted. I expect we'll get that back in December when we reach the 90 days. Additionally, behind the scenes, I have been meeting with Chris, Leanne, Nate, and members of the MRPC team. You'll remember that we had 2 DLTA projects that are underway with MRPC. And after meeting with them, we did discuss revising the scope of work on at least one project. I now have a weekly meeting scheduled with the 2 planners on that team through the month of October, just that we can continue working out those details. They did request a little bit more direct support, so I'm going to be putting some hours into that. And we have revised the scope of work specifically for the revisions to the commercial district project, noting that the scope of that in tandem with the sandpit overlay project could have presented some challenges at annual town meeting. And what we've done to date is revise that down to more of a GIS exercise to understand where the natural boundaries to the commercial district and the light industrial district might be if we were to expand them. Ultimately, that would still be a zoning revision that would come back before you. And then the revised scope of work, we have budgeted for at least 2 meetings with the planning board. Finally, I have, in a different community, I've worked out a new public engagement method, borrowed from another town, revised it to work for what we call a fall town meeting info session. It was hugely successful. We saw that it actually was really good at meeting a younger generation of participants and parents in the school system. And so I'm typing up a brief case study recap to make that a very replicable process. And I will share it with this team when that's done.
Awesome. Alec, can you also, can you comment just a little bit about the report and the presentation we're going to have at our next meeting on the 16th?
The sandpit overlay project?
Yes.
Happy to do so. So the niche engineering team have been busy reviewing the results of the public forum that was hosted, as well as the public survey exercise. They have met with myself and other town officials to do some initial bounce back. They've developed a series of scenarios, and they'll be presenting to the board what those scenarios look like. Effectively, you're going to have a low end to a high end of potential revenue, yield, and development scales, and they'll be seeking input specifically on where the planning board feels of these scenarios we could bring it forward, as well as get your interest level in them. Ultimately, a zoning overlay district, which is the expectation from this project, is something that does require public hearing of the planning board and then passage at town meeting. So it's important that they gather your input, they consider your anticipated development scope for the town, and they ultimately trial these. The results we heard at the public forum and between the public survey exercise really ranged from small scale housing to upwards of warehouse and industrial uses. And so they're really doing some heavy data dive here, crunching the numbers and trying to figure out what alternative scenarios you could consider. But ultimately, it'll be important that this board comes prepared at your next meeting to provide direct weigh-in. And we have asked the consultant to provide those materials at least 1 week in advance so you can review the PowerPoint materials and their results.
Thanks. Yeah, and just a note on that, we're going to be putting the agenda out on that one early next week. This is probably the most important meeting that we've had as a planning board since I've been involved with the planning board, because there's been 20 years of passing the buck, and the engineering firm has done a good job coming up with a few potential solutions, trying to look at the different stakeholder groups, and each solution has its pros and cons, and each solution will make a different group of people in town angry. So there's going to be a lot of trying to find the compromise of what makes the most sense for everybody, and that's going to be the meeting where the engineer walks away with what the planning board's position is. So even though that's not the public hearing for the bylaw, it's the meeting, it is the working session that sets up what ultimately gets presented at the hearing for it. So it will be a super, super important meeting.
Okay.
So I'm really looking forward to it, because we've talked about it a bunch. Like, the can's been kicked down the road for 20 years on that, so it's about time somebody does something. And we have a bunch of different options in front of us on what to try. So, all right, so thank you for that report. All All right, moving in.
As a follow-up, Mr.
Yep.
Chair,
Go ahead.
may I request that the updated bylaws that were approved by the Attorney General, that they please be incorporated in the online system where we have our record of the bylaws, to make sure that they are prepared and presented so that folks from the town are aware of what the updated bylaws are.
Awesome. Yeah, there's certainly some conversation going on with the staff on how to make that happen as fast as possible. So,
Thank you.
all right. So moving forward, we have a public hearing. So I am calling to order the public hearing in accordance with MGL Chapter 40, Section 15C, and the Hubbardston Scenic Road requirements. The Hubbardston Planning Board is conducting a public hearing. Today is Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the Slate Building. And we're here to talk about a scenic road permit and stone wall application submitted by Frederick Hanna to remove a portion of existing stone wall to allow the construction of a new driveway. The subject property is on Ragged Hill Road and identified as parcel 05022. And the Administrative Rule 1 checklist. And I'm just gonna, how about the Administrative Rule 4 checklist?
Okay.
And I'm just we have an administrative rule for how we call for evidence.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure that we follow that appropriately.
What file would that be in? What folder would that be in?
If you just search the SharePoint for Planning Board Administrative Rule number 1.
Nate, would you like me to share my screen? I have it pulled up here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Or sorry, Chris. Apologies.
Yeah, no problem.
Let me know if it's coming through.
It is,
It is. Okay, so read the notice. All right, so staff report. Alec, have you had an opportunity to review this application?
Yes, I've reviewed the application. It seems thorough. I can't speak to any noticing requirements because I wasn't participating. However, Leanne has provided those in your packet, so I trust that they were done sufficiently. I will note I did not review it for zoning compliance, as that is not one of the requirements. However, this appears to be a single-family home, and generally those are the easiest to come into compliance. That'll be reviewed by the building commissioner at the time of building plan submissions.
All right, and that the application is otherwise complete?
Yes, I felt it was thorough enough for what was being presented. While it lacked narrative description, there was a measured out description of the entryway to be opened up, the complete width of the road, the width of the break in the stone wall, etc. The applicant has already filed for the other permitting requirements, so the well permit as well as the driveway permit, and so I feel that there's pending need to process this application. Ultimately, we defer to the board's discretion as to whether you wish to allow opening of this stone wall.
All right. And noting for the record that we have received a drawn copy of a plan for the modification that's being proposed. And the forms for these are now electronic, so we don't actually have a copy of that, correct?
There's a copy in the drive.
Okay. And a copy of the online form is in the drive. So would you like to identify yourself for the record and tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
So Frederick Hanna here. I actually
purchased this lot in end of August, and it came with an approved septic plan, already approved by the town. So the site plan we're looking at actually was approved on January 29th, 2024, and it's good for 3 years. So then I got the driveway permit, I met with Travis on site, and I staked it out. He approved that, and then I submitted for the well permit, and I've been looking forward to coming here and meeting you guys to go over the stone wall cut. I did submit some photos too, and the wall we have, if you just want to pass that around, it's a stone wall for sure, but it's not like one I've seen. There's actually one in the backyard.
Bits and pieces.
It's very nice. It's like, a typical New England stone wall.
Yeah.
This one's got a lot of dirt and ferns and trees and stuff growing out of it. So the thought is that where it's staked out today, it's going to be a 15-foot wide driveway that kind of heads down the edge of the property, loops in to what would be a garage. And there's almost like a little staging area in the back corner. It's a 15-foot driveway with a 4.5-foot radius curved out that Travis is going to need to approve before we can pour any asphalt. I was thinking 6 feet on either side of the 15-foot roadway, so really 6 feet on the left, 6 feet on the right. That would give me enough room for like snow removal and things, sharp turns, maybe pulling something in there. You're not super tight up against the stone wall. And then once we were to dig it out, we would just take the really nice looking stones that have been kind of weathered by rain and stuff, put those along the edges of the driveway, kind of curve them in somewhat of an angle, maybe not at a 90, but a little bit of an angle. And depending on how many really nice stones we can get, that's how far back it'll go down the roadway. Some of the stones that have been buried in the dirt, it takes a while for a stone to get that nice gray look to it. So some of the dirtier stones we may not use, but we can use as many as we get out of the wall and line them up, and I'll try to make it look as nice as possible. Obviously, I want it to look good too, and kind of almost make it look like it's been there forever. And then there's one big oak tree on the corner of the property in between the property line and the apron of the road. That is a tree I really like. I think I'm definitely going to keep that. And then further set in the corner of the stone wall, there's two big oaks, and I also plan to keep those as well. Just to keep the look and feel of the whole front. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. Any questions from the board for the applicant?
No?
A quick question,
Go
as
ahead.
always. I see that you have a catch basin in front of the stone wall. I'm assuming that portion of the stone wall at this point in time will remain intact, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great.
6 feet. It'll be 6 feet from the stake, so it should be decent amount. Past it.
Yep.
All right. Any additional questions?
Is this work you're doing yourself, or is this some contractor that you have?
So I'll be subbing out the excavator. It'll be Glenn Hines out of Lancaster.
Great. I assume, therefore, that you will make them familiar with the work that you want to have done, and that this has been approved not only by the planning board, but we do cherish our stone walls.
Yes.
And whatever work that you're doing here is going to be managed in such a way that it will look appropriately similar to what you have put in the design here.
My plan, if it's approved, is to give the drawing we're all looking at today to the excavating contractor.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the fact that you are taking such good consideration for the work that we in Hubbardston try to do in terms of maintaining the character of the town. So it's good to have people like you respect that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Alec, can we go back to the admin rule one?
Yeah.
And Alec, you don't have any report on this project, so I will just directly ask you, do you recommend approval of this application?
Yes, I recommend approval of this application.
All All right, does the staff have any or rather, does the board have any questions for the staff about the recommendation?
No, sir.
Excellent, thank you.
No.
Are there any public officials in the room or online who want to comment on this application? Okay. Are there any members of the public specifically here to comment on the scenic road application, either in the room or online?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm his neighbor, live on 5 Ragtail Road.
Please just identify yourself for the record.
Oh, my name is Kyle Foy. I live at 5 Ragtail Road. I'm his next door neighbor now. I saw what he's doing, and I think it's a great idea, and I approve of what he's got going on.
Awesome, thank you. Any other comments? All right, so we don't have any letters or anything that have been submitted on this. Any final comments from the staff? All right, so typically how we handle this is we then close the public hearing and then we take a vote after the public hearing. So once we close the public hearing, no further or new evidence can be heard on the matter. So would somebody like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
We'll second it.
Excellent. Hearing a first and a second. Any discussion on closing the public hearing? All right. So I'm going to take a roll call vote since we do have a member who is appearing online. So I will run down the list. Mr. Steiger.
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter.
Aye.
Mr. Holman.
Aye.
Mr. Demalia.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. We've closed the public hearing. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the application as presented to the board?
I will make that motion.
Hearing a first, do we have a second?
I'll make a second.
Hearing a first and a second, any discussion on approving the application?
Yep.
All right, calling a roll call vote. Mr. Steiger.
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter.
Aye.
Mr. Homan.
Aye.
Mr. Demalia.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. The application is approved. Had a brain cramp there for a moment.
That's okay.
Happens.
It's like John, Mr. John. No, it's not Mr. John. That's his first name.
Close enough.
Awesome. So your application is approved.
Okay, is there any waiting period or anything, or could I get in there?
There isn't a waiting period, but it does need to...
It'll probably be like a few weeks before I do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'll have what you need in plenty of time for that.
Okay, awesome.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
All right. So moving forward on the agenda, we have old business, which is status of the site plan review bylaw and administrative rules for site plan review. Alec, can you just give us a short briefing on that?
Yes, so the board has previously approved a public hearing, your site plan review administrative rules. At the posting of the notice that was just referenced earlier this evening, the notice that the specific bylaw article was approved at annual town meeting, those will immediately take effect. There's also a school of thought we could have been enforcing those the entire time from, I believe it was late June when you approved, or even early July when you approved the administrative rules and regulations up to now. But cleanest is, of course, to start enforcing now. We didn't have any site plans in the meantime, so no harm, no foul on anyone. But nonetheless, those are approved. They're ready to go. I have seen some communication going back and forth by email that at least one board member may be interested in reopening the public hearing on that, perhaps making some corrections. As originally discussed and in your rules and regulations, that's entirely acceptable. The board just needs to post notice that you'll be making a revision, and so at your direction, we can open a new public hearing, make any corrections, and otherwise get those going.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. Any questions from the board for the town planner?
Where is Appendix A? It's referenced as a completed an application form.
Correct.
I don't see it posted on your website, but I do have it set aside. Bear with me. The board will remember this was one of the first projects you had me work on We prepared, reviewed that, and also consulted with the town's consulting engineer, Places Associates, to ensure that that was prepared and available. Similarly, we implemented another form for special permits simultaneously so that it took the liability off of the town in reviewing those and put it back on the applicant to adequately report the impacts and the proposal. So bear with me while I look back to find that. That was a few months back.
That did, Jug.
Actually, this time last year.
That was done by a separate vote before because we had changed the forms before. The forms had not been updated in a long, long time. So it was done separate from this. It was done maybe a year, maybe almost 2 years before.
As long as it's included as part of the
Yep.
the document. I'm sure I won't be the only one who'll ask. The applicant will ask it. I guess I was the squeaky wheel. The other thing I was concerned about is a long-term issue. Perhaps it isn't necessary to open a public hearing again for this small matter. But I think there should be some documentation of sign-off sheet or something that records that the appropriate town officials have approved the plan or have reviewed it, let me put it that way, which would include, I assume, at least the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission as applicable. And the reason I say that is because at times people lose things on their desk, and if there's something that we miss in the process, at least if we have some record someone's looked at it, I think it makes it easier to make sure that we've checked the boxes, so to speak. I'd be most concerned about Board of Health and Conservation Commission. In some cases, it may be appropriate to assure that we have fire and police review. We send copies to all these by the zoning bylaws, right? We send copies to all of them, but we only wait until we get a response, if there's an objection or something. If there's silence, we don't know
Yeah,
anything, really.
the zoning bylaw only requires us to transmit it to them. It doesn't require an affirmative sign-on.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we couldn't do it on the form. So Alec, can you look into that and report back, probably at the next not at the next meeting, because that's going to be a pretty big one. Let's go with the meeting following.
It's no big, yeah.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. And it's another appendix to the same document. It's not,
Yeah, I think it might be built into the form already. I just don't want to take up a ton of time digging for the form right now in a meeting, so.
No, so Mr. Chairperson, I do have it pulled up over here if you do want to review it.
oh,
Bear with me, I just got to figure out how to share just this window.
Yeah, we can be quick with it because it's only, well, actually, I guess
Yeah.
it's specifically referenced on the agenda, so.
what's it look like?
It looks like these really
So,
far away.
So remind me, what item is it we're looking for in the form?
Specifically, sign-offs from the other relevant department heads.
I don't know that we actually have that. I believe we require that they provide evidence that they're not in the rears with taxes, because you do have a tax bylaw, but we don't within the application process require that. Typically, I will note that this would be submitted as the cover page to an application, and then it would be circulated for review. So if you wanted us to generate another form to capture confirmation that it was reviewed, whether it was no comment or comment was provided, we could do so. But this is typically prepared, and this transposed weird because I just downloaded it, but typically this just certifies that the applicant is submitting the following information to be circulated for review, both at a public hearing and by town officials.
Right. So, I mean, this sounds like something that could potentially just be part of a process document. It doesn't even necessarily sound like something that needs to be part of the rule or part of the application, where we could just have intra-office worksheet where it is transmitted to departments, and then 7 days later follow-up, and then comment, no comment.
I would agree with that, Mr. Chairperson, and further, and this, I'll hesitate. I candidly, that's not something I would recommend the board take up. Rather, I would recommend you allow your administrative assistant or administrative services coordinator to prepare a form that works best for her. Where that's going to be a predominantly internal document, it'll be up to her and our team to track those materials, track the flow of it. So long as it's easy and transparent to read, I'd recommend allowing town staff to prepare that form, only because that might change person to person. 5 years down the line, someone might not find the form effective anymore, so they use something else for their own purposes.
Yeah. That sound like a reasonable way to get that started?
Yeah, sure. As long as it, ends up in the file for each application, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
As some document.
Yeah, because we
I
would
will-
need to, we can't do anything that conflicts with the bylaw, and the bylaw ultimately does not require sign-off, it requires notice. So if we created a situation where the police chief could just stop something from going to consideration because the form would be incomplete, we would have a result that I think would be incompatible with what our bylaws are.
Well,
So-
okay.
It would be a factor we should consider, but if you follow the administrative rule 1, like when
Yeah.
we got to the report on is this a complete application, if there are missing signatures, it would be an incomplete application.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have to think about how that got baked into the procedure.
Okay.
Obviously, the opinion matters. Like if the fire chief comes in and is like, this is something that's going to kill people, we should very heavily weight that.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Chairperson, I will also note we haven't had it in my term with you. We did have a site plan approval application filed, but ultimately it was withdrawn before it got to the table. But my standard process as a planner is to prepare a formal planner's report that also summarizes and recaps any comment you received, whether it was from the public or from department heads.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that, but simultaneously, I also appreciate that we are totally lucky to have you helping us, because this is the first time we've had access to a professional planner, and we can't always guarantee that happening in the future, and we need to make sure that our process is robust enough to survive the times where we don't have access to a professional planner. So, duly noted, but I also think we need to keep that context in mind.
Fair.
All right, any other questions on that?
Sounds good.
Otherwise, I'm inclined to move on.
We agreed that Leanne's going to create such a form? Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, so moving forward into administrative matters. We already talked about the big administrative matter. We're going to be receiving the report from the engineering firm at the next meeting, and it
Yep.
is a super important meeting because although it is not a public hearing, and we don't necessarily conduct it that way, it is essentially the working session for the board to deliver its comment. Anything that comes out of that will ultimately be put to an actual public meeting and public hearing. All meetings that we do are public, but it will not be a formal public hearing. It's just the presentation to us for our personal opinions as elected officials. All right, so matters not reasonably anticipated by chair. I don't have any. Does anybody else on the board have any? All right, so
No.
public comment. Do we have any additional public comment for anything that does not appear on the agenda anywhere, either in person or online? No. All right, so that is a full meeting. So would somebody like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
All right, here in the first, do we have a second?
Second?
And non-debatable, calling a roll call vote. Mr. Steiger,
Aye.
Mr. Carpenter,
Aye.
Mr. Homan,
Aye.
Mr. Demalia,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. We are adjourned.